Wow, yo, yippee, yay, guys. Pound number 33, and I'm super excited to be with you guys today. Today, we're going to dive in a little bit about what's happening on SwissBorg Network, but we're going to continue with the Chronicles about what has happened in SwissBorg 2018. As you guys know, my name is Cyrus Vizel. I'm the proud founder of SwissBorg, and always here to serve you. Alpha opportunities coming very soon to SwissBorg, and of course, XBorg was one of the first one to come in, which is really something into the GameFi space, which is really changing the status quo of how Web3 players are going to grow and how Web2 players are in the GameFi. How are they going to get into essentially the whole decentralized parts? Now, the second big theme that Anthony, the co-founder, and our Socrates, the big brain behind, has really talked about during the last keynote was SocialFi. SocialFi, it's all about social media put on chain, the Web3 version. We know well that the investment thesis behind social media has brought Web2 to something very new today. It's going to be most probably the same thing with essentially social media apps, which are decentralized. And this is the exactly same reason that we believe that mass adoption will come from GameFi, but as well as SocialFi. And for this, finally, we have a little teaser. We are going to bring you a new awesome Alpha Vault opportunity. Phaver, what is it? Essentially, it's a Twitter 3.0. Today, we're not going to dive right into Phaver and all of that. We'll have more time. But what I do invite you guys is all to check out phaver.com, phaver.com, and register yourself. Follow essentially SwissBorg, myself, and other people on it, and try to test it out. Right? Before you think about investment whatsoever, try to test out the app and feel if you think it's a good sense, if you want to be part of this community, and how SwissBorg could take the narrative of SocialFi, bring the best investment opportunities, could grow these different apps, and could finally make what we love, that virtuous cycle of going from investments to enjoying the product, enjoying the philosophy, the people behind it, and as well to get some perks out of it, right? So check out Phaver.com, and we'll talk next week more about Phaver, its team, the investment opportunity, the unique selling points of it, and how this might be a key player in social media fi. So now that we went through the entire ICO phases, what does it happen when you do raise 52 million and suddenly the whole world is watching you? So now we are January 7th, 2018. I have been exhausted. I just came back from essentially London, and I go to the team, and with Anthony, we're on the phone with all the rest of the team, like Alex and other people that are not in Lausanne. And I feel that this time is that we made it, right? You feel exhausted, but you feel at the same time there's beautiful tears in your eyes. You have that really sense of joy, the sense of gratitude, the sense of a little bit being elevated and be like everything around the world has like turned around SwissBorg, and that just get the really good karma to it, a really good sense to it, and I'm super proud. So when this is over, to be honest, I was a bit like looking at myself and like, okay, so now what next? Well, the few days, it was a bit difficult because we had a lot of people complaining, 1,000 people saying, oh, I was not able to participate. How can I buy some more tokens? And all this FOMO thing was going on. So the first 3-4 days, we really tried to mediate the best way possible people that were not able to essentially get into the ICO itself. So it was a bit weird, and like a lot of people were showing us screens and like, oh, I sent the crypto. I was like, well, everything's on the blockchain. So if you sent it, there would be a transaction, right? If the transaction has failed on your side, well, then unfortunately it didn't happen, right? So we're going through all this phase. That's the first phase. So trying to make sure, obviously getting in touch and thanking everyone that has participated into the ICO. That was the second phase. And then right a little bit after, we're saying, okay, now we have the money. We got a very big amount of Bitcoin, of Ether, of Litecoin, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, fiat, of course. Sorry, I forgot that one. and XRP. We need to find a bank that will support us to the conversion of fiat, or maybe spin this out into USDT, but then USDT back then was not really clear about it. So we're like, okay, maybe not. So what we're thinking is step number 2 is we need to get listed as soon as possible. And for that, we start working with different market makers, with like different listing projects. And we thought about back then how to get listed. And so Binance back then was very difficult. It was still an early small exchange, but it was a growing one. But you had to pay like $1 million to get on it. So we said, okay, we ruled that one out. We looked at OKX, we looked at Kraken, we looked at HitBTC, KuCoin. We looked at a lot of different ones, and we thought, okay, what is the most important one which will bring happiness to our community? We said, okay, if we able to list on KuCoin, that will be good for the Asian community. And HitBTC back then had quite a big European community. So I said this will be a good split between those both. And once that was done, obviously the token itself should have been created. It was already created, but the auditing, we needed auditors essentially to make sure that the smart contract was good and secure. And already back then, there was a few things that we were, not 100% sure about how this smart contract was based. There was no standard back in the days. It's a little bit, everyone would do as his wish. So we need to focus a lot on auditing and making sure that the SwissBorg contract CHSV was done. And fast forward to 1 month, something around February, we had the ICO party. If you were invited or if you made the ICO party back then, it was a really awesome one we had in Lausanne in our former office, Gotham, which is a co-working space. It was a one of a heck party. It was really, really cool. And during this time, which is kind of a euphoria, at the same time, a little bit of really tiredness and trying to get back to what is normal, so listing our token, all that. The market was going really downfall, and that's the sad part that I'll bring back right after. So we do the ICO party, everyone's happy, we get to list the token. I take a 2 weeks off vacation, to be honest. I go to the Philippines because it was literally 9 months that I didn't take any vacation off, so I needed at least a short break. And the token gets listed, it goes a bit well, but then suddenly, as the markets are plummeting, it goes from like 8 cents to 12 cents, and then from 12 cents to like something like 6-7 cents, right? So it went really down. There was some pressure selling, but more importantly, the market itself was tumbling, right? We went Ether from 1400, don't forget it, all the way down to 180, right? So now we're pretty much in March. The good news is that we do hire a head of engineering, which was Nicolas Raymond, our current CTO. So we know that we have money in our wallets, we have money in fiat, and we try to say, okay, what do we need to really prioritize? We said right away, we want to make sure that before building anything, essentially as app or exchange or whatsoever, we want to have a referendum. Because back then it was very important that your token should be specified as a utility token. And for this, it had to have a straight utility. So if you guys remember, for the first referendum, we had this governance massive question that has changed forever the whole narrative behind SwissBorg, which essentially was to build a web app or essentially a mobile app. Anthony wanted a web app. Anthony wanted a mobile app, and I wanted personally a mobile app. Sorry. Rewind. So I wanted a web app, and Anthony wanted a mobile app. There you go. The reason why I wanted a web app, I thought about the whole trading aspect. I thought that a lot of people wanted something trustful, but wanted to be able to trade. And then there was like potentials, be able to create an exchange for banks and other different things. So I had this professional way. And Anthony was saying, like, Cyrus, maybe in 2017, people are trading through essentially their desktops. But going forward, they're going to be essentially trading through their apps. And I'm like, but isn't it more difficult to create an app? So Nicolas said, yeah, it's a bit difficult, more difficult. And then I said, in terms of UX and all that, is probably very different from a small screen to a big screen, right? So we were not agreeing with that with Anthony, and that's why we asked you guys to do that. And if you guys remember well, This was one of the first protocol that based on your CHSB holding, your wallets, which back then was like 23,000, I think so, around the world, 24,000, you would have received RSBs. RSBs were referendum SwissBorg tokens. So essentially, if you had like 1,000 SwissBorg CHSB, you would get 1,000 RSB. And then based on that, so it was the first type of yield farming or airdrop that was given from that token when you think about it. And then people would be able to send essentially these RSB into a contract. And one contract was for the mobile app, and another contract was for the desktop app. Unfortunately for myself, we lost the desktop, so I went for the mobile app. But of course, I'm still very happy today. And it was a very small choice where it went a little bit higher for the mobile app than the desktop. The great thing about this first referendum, there was over 10,000 people, I think so, who participated. This could be checked on essentially Etherscan. It was probably one of the most highly participated of all initiatives until like a few years later. Even today, more than 5,000 people participate in any initiative on-chain for voting is like almost unknown. So it was really breaking records. It was great. And on top, people that were actually participating were receiving an airdrop in SwissBorg tokens. So essentially you got CHSB, that will give you RSB. If you then send it to one wallet, that means you vote for one decision. Then eventually you would get more CHSB. It was really cool. It was type of a yield farming way before yield farming was talking about it, airdrop and all that. It was something I think so really, something smart that no one was doing back then. And there was no snapshot or whatever voting mechanism. It was very difficult back then. So I think so this was like one of our first use case. And yes, the mobile app did win. And then let's talk about what happened after. As we talked about last time during like, what does it need to an ICO? There's a very similar approach to what is to essentially make sure that you build a product that solves many problems. So we looked at back then 2017 and early 2018, there was no like many exchanges that were good for fiat to crypto to fiat, and to buy a lot of different crypto. But there was some exchanges like Binance was already there. There was a few different ones that were doing already a great job like Kraken and others. Where Coinbase was good, it was mainly for on-ramp, off-ramp, and Bitstamp, same thing, right? And what we thought is that we had a big choices to with Anthony, Nicolas, and Jeremy, Christoph, and all the others. It was while we were hiring people and building essentially SwissBorg in 2018, we said, okay, what's going to be the main big app that we'll be launching in the next year? We said, okay, should we do a regular exchange? Or should we do an aggregator of exchange put on top of it and really be able to provide best prices and have a really great user experience? It's like a Japanese model. You see what works, and on top of it, you create something better, smoother, faster, and that creates a better experience overall. And of course, a more secure one. And this is what we went for. We didn't go for an exchange. We went for a meta exchange, which is the smart engine. And for that, well, Nicolas and most of us, we didn't really have a clue how to do this. So we looked at a lot of different competitors, this and that. We looked at the best people who have built these for FX. And we said, guys, is there any way you could team up with us on this? Fortunately not. Some of the teams that have built really the best, FX routers back then, some of them were working in a consulting company, and we got together with a product with Marco and other different people and said, okay, now we're going to build a smart engine to start with these guys and then evolve by ourselves and make it better and better and better. And this is what we really did. So from, I would say, April to almost a year after, we were working on the smart engine, how to connect all these different exchanges and provide really the best experience to get the best price and finally be the first company offering best execution. In 2018, which was a very weird year, it was one of the biggest crypto winter years. We saw a bit the community going lowering down, like we were doing still a lot of meetups around the world and traveling, try to really make similar to what we did in 2017, really have an open discussion. But we saw that a lot of things was fading out. And essentially Bitcoin, the price, the market, everything was going a little bit south. And when I'm saying south, I mean, Bitcoin went from 20K to, 4,000. Again, Ether to 1,400 to 180. SwissBorg token, I think so, it went from 12 cents to, I think so, 2 cents in 2018. So a lot of people lost faith in us. And usually those are the moments where you say, okay, well, I did my best and I'm out now, right? Or on the opposite, you say, okay, everyone loved us. Everyone participated, spent time, money with us. And now I've lost their trust because of a lot of different scenarios, but essentially the fact we're in crypto winter. And this was the time for me where resilience was the big manifestation. The more walls, the more traps that were in front of me, the more excited I was getting. Like, it's always very difficult, obviously, to see your token plummet 90%. But then I always say, like, oh, people that will have those diamond hands will probably hold, or even better, they will start to accumulate their position in order to essentially, as we always say, get in at a better average price and therefore be able to accumulate immensely a lot of wealth. And there's a lot of people watching this, like, they're probably smiling, said, yeah, that's what I did in 2018. That's what I definitely did in 2019. So 2018 goes on and we start building essentially the same narrative of what we're doing. And what does happen though, which is very weird, we start getting targeted by different PR companies where we're considered as the dark lord of crypto myself, and that everything what we're doing is a scam. And I could understand that, you know, again, we're up there and someone wants to bring us down there, because when things go very up, then eventually things go very down, and then find a position, especially at an early stage. So there was a lot of newspapers and things like that were very pessimistic about us and really trying to portray us as the dark lord of cryptos and all that. So the question, what did I do? I completely embraced it. We completely embraced it and we said, yeah, well, you think that's what we're doing? Well, this is what we've been doing. These are the different statistics and this is where we're heading. And everyone was like, yeah. 2019 happens and we're getting delays on and on with this app. And the smart engine is pretty much ready, but we realize that, like always, right? Our ideas and our eventually our motivation is much higher than what we could really deliver on a short run. So Anthony says, what if we did, because on the second referendum we had, what would be the category you guys would like to invest in the most into our ICO platform? And people said gaming. So instead of trying to look for ICOs, and there was many projects back then that wanted to do ICOs, but we felt that they were too weak, so we never really launched our launchpad back then in 2018 and 2019. But we said, you know what, let's launch our own in our SwissBorg studio. Let's launch a game that will maybe, be fun enough, that will be able to entertain people, and they'll be able to essentially learn and earn. And all this play to earn type of things, we did this way before the whole movement, early 2019. And it would be a game where you would have to forecast if Bitcoin's going up or down, and without you being winning points, and the points would be accumulated with different challenges. The challenges would eventually enable you to earn SwissBorg tokens or Bitcoins. And we did develop this app. It took much more time than we wanted, but it was a good training for our team, essentially being able to have an Android app and iOS app for further on. And that was pretty much 2019. We hired more people to be able to speed up the progress of the development of their app, and launched this first learn and earn game, or play to earn type of game, in order to have a soft launch of what we were building, to show faith to the world that we're actually building cool stuff. And more importantly, to be able to jumpstart right away when we have the app, to convert all the people in the game to bring them into the SwissBorg app. You guys just went through 2018 and 2019. As you can see, that it was really that crypto winter. It was really that time that people didn't have faith anymore in SwissBorg. People are saying, I'm disgusted about it. I lost so much money. Look at them. They're crooks. They're scams. This crypto market, it's completely bullshit. This will never happen. It was completely all about hopium. And hopium brings you to be addicted and brings you way down into hell. And then 2019, there was some little bit of something going on. And there was some things within the market itself. We were preparing, we're talking about different layers, and SwissBorg itself, we finally launched at least an application that, was somewhere connected to our mission, right? Which is democratizing wealth management by making it fun, fair, and community-centric in order to promote financial freedom, right? So we got at least some traction, but the token was going down. It went lower than 1 cent. That's how bad things went, right? People just selling, getting out, whatever. And I'm not saying we're in 2019 exactly, because everything, cycles do change, but we're in a very similar cycle today, and where there's a lot of distress, projects, and many of them will die, but many of them will probably have great amounts of returns, especially those who are connected through a mission that has sufficient funding, and more importantly, have a great amount of community members such as SwissBorg. And this is the reason why this is the right now to position yourself in all these projects that you strongly believe, DCA and enjoy the 22, 24, and 5 ride. As always, guys, be wealthy, be healthy, love our CHSB and our equity. Hope you enjoyed this. Take care. Bye, Borgers.
Through SwissBorg, all assets will have a fiat gateway. And here is the thing.
Premium features gives you zero fee trading.
It's an amazing fiat gateway.